The quantum crystalline viewscreen on Zix-Varax's command deck displayed Earth's military satellites, primitive constructions of metal and silicon that his scientists dismissed as laughably obsolete. The general's secondary heart pulsed with anticipation as he strode across the liquid metal floor, his ceremonial armor gleaming under the blue-tinged lights. 17 campaign marks adorned his chestplate, each representing a conquered civilization. "Magnify Sector 7, he ordered, voice resonating with the harmonic overtones of hegemony aristocracy. The screen shifted to display a human military training facility in a region the natives called Nevada. Soldiers crawled through mud beneath barbed wire, their exertions causing obvious physical distress. Some failed to complete the course. Others fired projectile weapons with visible recoil, the primitive chemical propellants occasionally causing misfires and injuries. Zix-Varax released a pheromone of contempt that caused nearby officers to step back respectfully. Their strongest warriors struggle with basic movement in their own gravity. Pathetic. Intelligence Officer Jevnax approached cautiously, her smaller stature and lighter scale coloration marking her as from the scientist caste. "General, with respect, I've observed anomalies in their communication patterns that suggest." "That suggest what, exactly?" Zix-Varax interrupted, his cranial ridges flushing purple with irritation. "That these primitive mammals who cannot even achieve unified planetary governance might pose a challenge to the hegemony." The bridge crew grew silent, attention focused on their consoles. "I merely suggest caution," Jevnax continued, displaying uncommon courage. "Their communication flows show decentralized decision-making structures unlike previous conquest species, and their historical archives contain unusual quantities of theoretical combat scenarios, including hypothetical extraterrestrial conflicts." The general's laugh startled a technician, who knocked over a nutrient container. "They imagine fighting aliens in their entertainment media. And you consider this military intelligence?" He turned to address the entire bridge. Officer Jevnax apparently believes humans' primitive imaginations constitute a tactical advantage. The resulting laughter relieved the tension, though Jevnax's neck scales flattened in humiliation. "These creatures lack any evolutionary advantages," Zix-Varax continued, activating a biological comparison hologram. "No natural armor, no significant muscle density, dull senses. Even their largest specimens would be classified as physically impaired by hegemony standards." He gestured dismissively at footage of human naval vessels. "Their most advanced weapons operate on principles we abandoned millennia ago. They require chemical acceleration for projectiles. They still use hydrocarbon fuels. Their information systems remain vulnerable to basic quantum intrusion." Zix-Varax turned to his war council, mandibles clicking with finality. "The conquest assessment is complete. I will recommend deployment of a single battle group, the smallest authorized for species subjugation. Even this is excessive, but protocol demands it." In his private quarters later, Zix-Varax recorded his official recommendation to the Hegemony Council. Conquest difficulty assessment: minimal. Request authorization for battle group Theta only. Estimated resistance: 72 Earth hours maximum before formal surrender. Casualties expected: negligible. These creatures lack the physical capacity, technological means, or strategic intelligence to resist hegemony dominion. Their biochemistry suggests acceptable compatibility for labor conversion, and their mineral resources justify the minimal expenditure of conquest. Glory to the eternal hegemony. As the message transmitted through subspace, Zix-Varax permitted himself a moment of self-satisfaction, already planning how he would display his 18th conquest medallion. He didn't notice the small notation added by Jevnax to the intelligence appendix, flagging unusual patterns in human military response simulations that defied standard predictive models. It was, after all, merely a scientific curiosity, unworthy of a conquering general's attention. The synchronized materialization of hegemony warships over Earth's major cities had been calculated for maximum psychological impact. As Zix-Varax's flagship hovered above Manhattan, its shadow engulfing Central Park and darkening the gleaming towers of human commerce. He felt the familiar thrill of conquest's first stage. Atmospheric disturbance patterns indicate widespread panic, reported his emotional analysis officer, her cranial sensors pulsing with data streams. Primitive communication networks are overwhelmed with transmission attempts. Their emergency response systems appear inadequate. Zix-Verax clicked his mandibles in approval. Initiate Phase 2. Target military installations only. I want precision. On view screens surrounding his command platform, hegemony beam weapons lanced down from sister ships worldwide, severing aircraft carriers in Sydney Harbor, vaporizing missile silos in the American Midwest, and reducing a Russian submarine base to molten slag. The energy signatures were deliberately distinctive, creating violet-white flashes visible for hundreds of miles. Broadcast the ultimatum. Zix-Verax ordered. All Earth languages simultaneously. His image projected into every electronic device on the planet, appearing on smartphones, television screens, computers, and digital billboards. The hegemony's advanced linguistics team had crafted his appearance to trigger primal fear responses across human demographic groups. People of Earth, he began, his translated voice engineered to resonate at frequencies that induced anxiety. Your military capabilities have been neutralized as a demonstration of mercy. Further resistance is both futile and unnecessary. The hegemony offers civilization and order to all who submit willingly. You have 48 Earth hours to surrender through your governing bodies. To emphasize his point, he transmitted live footage of captured human soldiers in Beijing being executed by molecular disintegration, their bodies unraveling from the cellular level in precisely controlled patterns designed to maximize horror while preventing immediate death. This fate awaits those who resist. Choose wisely. The transmission ended, but Zix-Verax remained watching Earth's reactions through countless surveillance drones. What he observed didn't align with conquest protocols. Instead of mass exodus from cities, humans were organizing. Civilians formed human chains around government buildings in Paris. In Mexico City, people gathered in central plazas, linking arms and singing. Most confusing was the sudden reduction in electromagnetic signals. Earth's digital communications were diminishing rather than increasing. They appear to be shutting down networks, his communications officer reported with confusion. Switching to primitive technologies, physical cables, analog radio. A primitive fear response. Zix-Verax dismissed. They seek to hide like prey animals. Combat Commander Dravtek approached with a concerned expression. General, we're detecting unusual activity at human military infrastructure that survived our first strike. Their response patterns don't match our behavioral models. Of course they don't, Zix-Verax replied dismissively. Their psychology is simplistic but alien. Expect irrational actions. Meanwhile, 5 kilometers beneath the Rocky Mountains, in a facility officially decommissioned decades ago, 23 of Earth's top computer scientists worked in silence. Cooling fans hummed as quantum processors analyzed the hegemony transmission's underlying code structure. Dr. Lakshmi Patel, her fingers flying across 3 keyboards simultaneously, looked up at the NSA director with a tight smile. We've isolated their primary communication protocol. It's elegant, based on quantum entanglement. But there's a critical vulnerability in their authentication sequence. How long? The director asked. Lakshmi glanced at her team. Russians, Chinese, Israelis, Americans, all former rivals now working side by side. And replied, 8 hours to develop the exploit. Another 4 to deploy it globally. Make it 6, said the director, checking her watch. JSOC teams are already positioning for Phase 1. 12,000 miles above them, Zix-Verax prepared for his victory feast, unaware that humans were already adapting to his tactics in ways 17 previous species never had. Precisely as the 48-hour deadline expired, Zix-Verax stood on his command platform, savoring the moment. His bridge officers attended their stations with efficient movements, preparing targeting solutions for Beijing. Chosen as the first example of consequences. Weapon systems charge, announced his tactical officer. Atmospheric conditions optimal for maximum visibility across Asian population centers. Excellent, the general replied, raising a clawed hand to give the execution order. Let their first lesson in. The overhead lights flickered. Impossible, on a ship powered by 3 redundant quantum singularities. Every screen on the bridge suddenly displayed the same image. A human male with reddish hair performing some kind of rhythmic movement. Sound blasted through communication systems. Never gonna give you up. Never gonna let you down. What is this? Zix Verax demanded as his officers frantically attempted to restore control. His question was answered by a massive impact that rocked the flagship. Warning klaxons blared as damage reports flooded in, a direct hit to the primary propulsion manifold. Simultaneously, reports streamed in from sister ships worldwide. 5 vessels over Sydney completely lost gravitational control, plummeting from the sky. 3 more over Tokyo suffered weapons system failures, their energy cores entering unexpected shutdown cycles. How is this possible? Zix Verax roared. Their weapons technology is primitive. His security chief's voice crackled over emergency channels. General, we're detecting internal breaches. Human boarding parties have somehow penetrated our... The transmission ended in weapons fire and screaming. On a tactical display that still functioned, Zix Verax watched in disbelief as hegemony ground forces in the Amazon combat zone reported catastrophic losses. Brazilian special forces had somehow flooded lowland areas, creating artificial swamps that swallowed hegemony heavy weaponry. The alien soldiers, genetically engineered for maximum strength, now found themselves sinking in quicksand, their density becoming a fatal disadvantage. Sir, his intelligence officer interrupted, human forces are using modified hegemony weapons against our troops in Eastern Europe. That's impossible, Zix Verax hissed. No species has ever weaponized our technology against us, especially not this quickly. Another explosion rocked the ship. Emergency containment fields activated as hull breaches were detected on decks 7 through 12. Underwater attack. Confirmed his damage control officer. Human divers attached explosive devices precisely at our shield junction points. They knew exactly where to target. Zix Verax's mind raced. This wasn't merely unexpected, it was unprecedented. 17 previous conquests had followed predictable patterns of resistance followed by submission. This species was fighting differently, not with superior strength or technology, but with implausible adaptability. The ship's AI announced, critical system failure imminent. Unknown code infiltrating central processors. On the main view screen, the bizarre human music video was replaced by a simple text message in perfect hegemony script. We see you. Underneath, in smaller text, P.S. Thanks for broadcasting your complete command protocols during your ultimatum. Sloppy. In his private command center beneath the Pentagon, General Williams watched satellite footage of the hegemony flagship listing to one side, its once perfect stealth systems, now compromised by SEAL Team 6's precision demolition charges. Confirmation on the cyber package, he asked. The NSA liaison nodded. Dr. Patel's team successfully deployed the exploit. We're downloading their entire tactical database as we speak. Weapons systems, navigation charts, biological profiles of their species, everything. Williams turned to the representatives of Global Special Forces units waiting for instructions. Ladies and gentlemen, the second phase begins now. The aliens expected surrender. Instead, they'll learn why humanity's greatest weapon isn't our technology. A Russian Spetsnaz commander finished the thought. It's that we've spent thousands of years trying to kill each other. We've had practice. Zix Verax had retreated to his war room, a hexagonal chamber where holographic displays showed the rapidly deteriorating situation across all combat theaters. The general paced with uncharacteristic agitation, his armored tail lashing against the floor. "Show me the Russian front again," he demanded, mandibles clicking rapidly, a sign of extreme stress no subordinate had ever witnessed in him before. The display shifted to the Siberian engagement zone. Hegemony thermal sensors had been rendered useless by Russian Special Forces units wearing modified cold weather gear that masked their heat signatures. The aliens, genetically engineered for combat in standardized environments, were being systematically picked off by snipers they couldn't detect. "What about the African resistance?" he asked. Another display activated, showing Kenyan Rangers leading hegemony pursuit units into pre-prepared ambush zones. The Rangers moved through terrain with preternatural familiarity, using indigenous knowledge of animal migration patterns to predict safe pathways through minefields they themselves had created. "This makes no tactical sense," Zix muttered, more to himself than his officers. "These human units operate independently, yet somehow achieve coordinated effects." His chief xenobiologist, Meverol, approached cautiously. The scientist's cranial ridges were flattened in submission posture, knowing the bearer of bad news often suffered in hegemony hierarchy. "General, we've completed our analysis of human combat patterns," she began, offering the data crystal. "We've identified a significant error in our pre-invasion assessment." Zix snatched the crystal, inserting it into his neural interface. Information flooded his consciousness. Thousands of years of human warfare documentation, from ancient tactical treatises to modern military doctrine. This is impossible," he whispered. "These creatures have been systematically killing each other for millennia, constantly refining combat methodologies." "Precisely, General," Meverol confirmed. "While most species in the galaxy evolved toward unified cooperation, humans maintained internal conflicts that created a continuous laboratory for combat innovation." The holographic display shifted again, showing human soldiers in South Korea executing maneuvers that appeared chaotic yet achieved perfect flanking positions against hegemony units. "Their fighting styles defy cataloging," continued the xenobiologist. "Finnish forest warfare bears minimal resemblance to Vietnamese tunnel tactics, yet both prove devastatingly effective against our standardized combat protocols." A message alert chimed. One of Zix elite infiltration teams had been completely destroyed while attempting to breach a German research facility. Surveillance footage showed humans using crude but effective countermeasures to hegemony cloaking technology, simply spraying the area with adhesive substances that revealed the invisible assassins. "The humans didn't develop this countermeasure through advanced technology," Meverol observed. "They apparently derived it from theatrical special effects techniques used in their entertainment media." Zix stared at the footage in disbelief. "They're improvising weapon systems." "Worse, General," replied the scientist. "We've detected human soldiers already using modified components from our own technology. They're not just adapting their strategies to us. They're adapting our own technology against us." She hesitated, then delivered the most disturbing finding. "We've analyzed their fictional entertainment archives. These creatures have been imagining combat against alien invasions for generations. Thousands of simulated scenarios, many remarkably similar to our actual tactics." In that moment, Zix felt something entirely new in his 4-century military career. The cold realization of profound miscalculation. His confidence, once absolute, cracked like the damaged hull of his flagship. "Send me all human combat footage," he ordered quietly. "Every engagement, every outcome. I need to understand." What he needed to understand remained unspoken: how a physically inferior species was systematically dismantling the greatest military force in the known galaxy, using nothing more than adaptability and millennia of practice at the art of warfare. "Orbital bombardment is our only remaining option," Zix announced to his war council. The admission cost him visibly, his secondary heart palpitating beneath iridescent scales, causing a ripple of color change that signaled distress to any hegemony officer familiar with their species' biology. "General," his legal advisor interjected, This violates Conquest Protocol 17B. The Council explicitly forbids. I am aware of the protocols, Zix Verax snapped. But we face unprecedented circumstances. These humans refuse to follow proper conquest response patterns. The tactical officer inputted the bombardment coordinates, targeting Washington, D.C. first. A calculated strike to decapitate what they believed was humanity's primary command center. Bombardment commencing in 30 seconds, the weapons officer announced. On the view screen, the hegemony's 3 most powerful dreadnoughts positioned themselves in high orbit, their planet cracker cannons powering up with a distinctive violet glow that ionized the surrounding atmosphere. Each vessel could reduce a city to molten slag within seconds. "Sir," the sensor officer interrupted, "I'm detecting unusual energy signatures activating worldwide." "Specify," Zix Verax demanded. "Unknown, sir. They appear to be." The officer never finished his sentence. The view screen showed something impossible. A shimmering energy field materializing in the upper atmosphere, encircling the entire planet. The dreadnoughts fired simultaneously, their combined energy output sufficient to shatter a small moon. The beams struck the shield and dissipated harmlessly, transformed into spectacular aurora displays visible across the northern hemisphere. "Impossible," Zix Verax whispered, his confidence finally shattered. Their technological assessment showed nothing remotely capable of. Alarms shrieked as 3 hegemony dreadnoughts simply disintegrated. Their quantum structures unraveled from within, complex molecules separating into base atoms with terrifying efficiency. "Neutron beam technology," his science officer gasped, "emanating from underwater platforms in the Chesapeake Bay. But our intelligence indicated humans were at least 70 years from developing." Another alarm interrupted, this one from hegemony staging areas on the lunar surface. Simultaneous nuclear strikes from combined Indian and Pakistani arsenals, precisely targeted by Japanese satellite systems, transformed the carefully established forward bases into fields of glowing craters. As Zix Verax struggled to process these developments, his neural command link with ground forces suddenly severed. Thousands of hegemony soldiers, dependent on the neural network for combat functioning, went catatonic on battlefields worldwide. "Chinese quantum disruption technology," reported his communications officer, actual fear evident in his voice. "They've somehow isolated the frequency of our command neural implants." The view screen shifted to Earth's night side, where pinpricks of light suddenly activated across every continent, hidden military installations revealing themselves in a global demonstration of concealed firepower. "General," his intelligence officer said quietly, "preliminary analysis suggests these installations were developed from technologies not of human origin." "Clarify," Zix Verax demanded. "Sir, we weren't the first visitors to Earth. Evidence suggests previous extraterrestrial contact, crash sites, recovered technologies. The humans have been reverse engineering alien technology for decades, developing countermeasures for the very scenario we've created." The implication struck Zix Verax like a physical blow. Not only had he underestimated human adaptability and combat experience, but he'd also completely missed their technological capabilities, hidden beneath a carefully maintained facade of primitive development. His command console displayed an incoming transmission from Earth. When he accepted it, a weathered human military commander appeared, gray-haired, face lined with scars, eyes reflecting decades of combat experience. "This is General Williams of Earth United Command," the human said without preamble. "Perhaps now would be a good time to discuss your surrender terms." The words landed like a death sentence for Zix Verax's illustrious career. In 17 previous conquests, he had never once been on the receiving end of such a communication. The atmosphere in Zix Verax's private command chamber had grown toxic with failure. His officers stood at rigid attention, mandibles tight against their faces, a biological signal of extreme stress among their species. 3 junior officers had already attempted to access escape pods, a capital offense during active combat operations. Their executed bodies had been displayed in the ship's central atrium as warning. General Williams offers terms. His communications officer reported, voice carefully neutral. I do not accept terms, Six-Verax snarled, slamming his armored fist against a console, shattering its crystalline surface. The hegemony does not surrender. 17 species before these humans have learned this truth. His chief synapsepsychologist, a diminutive female with specialized neural enhancements, approached with uncharacteristic boldness. General, with respect, I must share our final analysis of human combat psychology. She activated a holographic display showing human brain scans alongside comparative models from previously conquered species. These readings are anomalous, she explained. Other species we've subjugated evolved uniform responses to threats, either hive mind coordination or rigid hierarchical command structures. The display shifted to show human military units operating after losing their commanders, maintaining combat effectiveness through distributed decision-making. Humans function differently, she continued. They combine centralized strategy with individual tactical autonomy. When their command structure is compromised, they don't collapse, they adapt. Each human can become a decision node. Six-Verax studied the display with growing comprehension, a legacy of their internal conflicts. Precisely. Unlike species that evolved toward unified cooperation, humans maintain tribal conflicts that selected for individuals who could function effectively without constant oversight. The general turned away, moving to his meditation alcove where he maintained a collection of trophies from previous conquests. Their physical frailty misled us. Yes, the psychologist confirmed. We assessed them as apex predators who evolved physical dominance, but they're actually persistence predators who evolved cognitive advantages. She hesitated before delivering her final observation. They're weaponizing psychology against us, sir. Human units are broadcasting the death cries of our soldiers on our own frequencies. They're imitating our distress calls to create ambushes. Some human soldiers have even modified their weapons to produce the specific harmonics that cause our neural implants to generate fear responses. Six-Verax processed this information in silence, reviewing combat footage with new understanding. He had built his career on exploiting predictable responses from enemy species. Humans defied prediction, not through superior strength or technology, but through cognitive flexibility and psychological warfare. In that moment, Six-Verax made his decision. Opening a secure channel to his most trusted subcommander, he transmitted authorization codes for the Genesis weapon, a planet-killing device prohibited by 17 separate hegemony conventions. Prepare the weapon, he ordered. We will sterilize this world and harvest its resources. The Council would prefer minerals to continued embarrassment. Even as he gave the order, a strange sensation invaded his neural implant, a foreign code bypassing his most sophisticated mental firewalls. Text appeared directly in his visual cortex. We see you making this decision, General. We're inside your neural network now. Predictable. Accompanying the message was footage from his own private chamber, taken seconds ago, showing him authorizing the Genesis weapon. The humans had penetrated his most secure communications, his neural implants, even his private thoughts. For the first time in 4 centuries of military service, Six-Verax felt genuine fear, not of death or failure, but of something far worse. The realization that he faced an enemy who had been 3 steps ahead of him from the beginning. The Genesis weapon began its charging sequence, drawing power from the flagship's quantum singularities. Six-Verax knew it was his final gambit. What he didn't know was that human hackers had already compromised its targeting systems. As the Genesis weapon's energy core pulsed with increasing intensity, bathing the weapon bay in sickly green light, Six-Verax struggled to maintain neural coherence. The human intrusion into his implants had escalated, no longer merely observing but actively interfacing with his sensory cortex. His mind flooded with alien images, human children playing in sunlight, the taste of something called chocolate, the sensation of ocean waves against skin, the complex emotional resonance of music, the grief at a parent's funeral, The joy of birth. Human experiences compressed into a psychic assault that overwhelmed his neural filters. General, his second-in-command's voice seemed distant. The humans have launched an attack on the flagship. Multiple breaches reported. Zix-Varax fought through the neural bombardment, forcing his consciousness back to the physical world. Status of the Genesis weapon. Charging at 78%, but the ship rocked violently. Proximity alarms shrieked as 3 hegemony destroyers, their navigation systems hijacked by Israeli cyber warfare specialists, executed collision courses with the Genesis platform. The impacts didn't destroy the weapon but damaged its targeting systems critically. Simultaneously, the flagship's primary defense grid collapsed. On security monitors, Zix-Varax watched a team of human soldiers materialize directly onto his command bridge, appearing through shimmering distortions in reality. Phase shift technology, his science officer gasped. They've weaponized our own transport systems. The humans moved with shocking efficiency, small in stature compared to hegemony warriors, but executing combat maneuvers with fluid precision that negated the aliens' physical advantages. A female soldier with Asian features dispatched 3 security officers using leverage techniques that turned their greater mass against them. A massive human male with dark skin absorbed a direct hit from a hegemony shock weapon without falling, continuing his advance with fanatic determination. Most disturbing was their silence. No battle cries, no wasted communication, just economical, practiced movements that spoke of countless hours of rehearsal for this exact scenario. How did they prepare for us so specifically? Zix-Varax demanded, even as his command staff fell to the human assault. The answer came directly into his neural implant. We didn't prepare for you specifically. We prepared for everything. In Earth orbit, the Genesis weapon's power core reached critical threshold. But instead of targeting the planet below, the weapon's modified targeting systems locked onto the hegemony fleet itself. The resulting detonation vaporized a third of the remaining alien vessels in a spectacular chain reaction visible from the planet's surface. On the command bridge, now secured by human special forces, Zix-Varax found himself surrounded by representatives from Earth's elite military units, American SEALs, Russian Spetsnaz, British SAS, Chinese Snow Leopards, Israeli Shaytet-13. Each bore the hardened expression of a veteran warrior. Yet none showed the bloodlust or barbarism the general had expected from primitives. Your neural network has been severed from the hegemony, stated the human commander, a woman whose uniform identified her as Admiral Chen of Earth's United Defense Force. Your troops are either neutralized or in retreat. Through view screens, Zix-Varax witnessed the final humiliation. Indian scientists activating a makeshift wormhole disruptor constructed from captured hegemony technology. The quantum tunnel that had connected his invasion force to hegemony reinforcements collapsed, stranding his remaining ships in the Sol system. More shocking was the broadcast now being transmitted directly to the Hegemony Council. Humans had not only breached his ship's communications, but the entire interstellar network. The message showed Zix-Varax's unauthorized deployment of the Genesis weapon, alongside documented evidence of hegemony war crimes against Earth civilians. As the general's vision darkened from shock and neural overload, his final coherent thought was not of failure or disgrace, but of profound miscalculation. He had assessed humans as physically inferior creatures, never understanding that their true evolutionary advantage lay not in their bodies, but in their uniquely adaptable minds. 6 months after the failed invasion, Zix-Varax stood at the observation window of the newly constructed Interspecies Diplomatic Center in Geneva. Snow fell gently outside, accumulating on the shoulders of his ceremonial robe, no longer bearing the proud armor of a hegemony high general, but the simple blue garments of a cultural exchange officer. The transformation of his circumstances remained difficult to process. He had expected execution, by humans for his attempted genocide, or by the Hegemony Council for his catastrophic failure. Instead, he faced something entirely unexpected: pragmatism. Behind him, Human and hegemony representatives discussed trade agreements. Among the alien delegation stood his former intelligence officer, Jev Nax, now elevated to ambassador. Her early caution about human capabilities vindicated in the most dramatic fashion possible. "Still adjusting to gravity?" asked a voice beside him. Admiral Chen approached, now wearing civilian diplomatic attire but carrying herself with the same military precision. "The physical adjustment is minor compared to the conceptual one," Zix-Verax replied, his translator rendering his harmonic speech into human language. Through the window, he observed hegemony offspring playing in the snow alongside human children in the embassy's courtyard. The juvenile aliens, with their still soft exoskeletons and undeveloped mandibles, hurled snowballs with surprising accuracy at their laughing human counterparts. "Your council accepted the terms with remarkable speed," Chen noted. Zix-Verax clicked his mandibles in what humans now recognized as ironic amusement. The demonstration was persuasive. The demonstration had been Earth's response to initial hegemony resistance to negotiation. Human scientists transmitting complete schematics for an improved version of the hegemony's own faster-than-light drive, developed in mere weeks from studying captured ships. The implication required no explanation. "Deny us now, face us later as competitors who understand your technology better than you do." "I've been studying your history," Zix-Verax said quietly. "Your world wars, Cold Wars, regional conflicts. We dismissed them as evidence of primitive development, never understanding they were creating the perfect adaptive defense system." Chen nodded. "Evolution works differently depending on selection pressures. Our internal conflicts drove innovation in ways peaceful, unified development couldn't. The ultimate irony," Zix-Verax observed, "is that I was defeated not by superior firepower, but by superior adaptability. We assessed your hardware but missed your wetware." A commotion in the courtyard drew their attention. A hegemony juvenile had fallen through ice on a decorative pond, its denser body sinking rapidly. Without hesitation, a human child plunged into the freezing water, pulling the alien child to safety before adults of either species could react. "They adapt so quickly," Zix-Verax whispered, watching human medical staff treating both children for exposure. "Even your offspring. That's our true evolutionary advantage," Chen replied. "Not our bodies, but our minds and our social structures. Individually vulnerable, collectively resilient." As medical teams worked, the human child, though shivering violently, seemed primarily concerned about the alien's condition, offering comfort despite the language barrier. "I've submitted my final report to the Hegemony Council," Zix-Verax said. "A complete reassessment of human capabilities and recommended protocols for future interaction." "And your conclusion?" Chen asked. "That the deadliest miscalculation in combat is to measure an opponent's capability by standards that don't apply to them. Humans aren't exceptional by hegemony physical metrics. You're exceptional because you operate outside our metrics entirely." He turned from the window, facing humanity's representative directly. "The galaxy has never encountered a species quite like yours," he said with newfound respect. "You've changed the equation for all of us." As diplomatic proceedings resumed, Zix-Verax took his place, no longer a conqueror, but a student of the species that had humbled the mighty hegemony not through superior strength, but through the power of adaptability, creativity, and the hard-won wisdom of a species that had practiced the art of survival against itself for millennia.